Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for...
Order! Order! Order in the court! UnSpun.
Thank you very much. I asked if we could start with this rather unusual first topic for UnSpun, but I was telling you as we were setting up for today's podcast that I got the news alert that Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson has officially ascended to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I mean, it gives me goosebumps. It honestly chokes me up a little bit. Seeing a woman do that and RBG passing away hurt my soul. But to see a woman of color, to see that actually happen, I mean, it's no surprise that she has made it. They had enough votes. They could make this happen. We knew that, but I always kind of felt there might be a reason why it wouldn't. And it has now, and it's a lifetime appointment. And congratulations.
They really couldn't find any dirt on her at all. It's like, unlike the last couple where it's been always challenging, but there was not much. I mean, this person, she's highly skilled and competent,
qualified,
and credited. So, it's great news. Still, you have a court that's fairly unbalanced down there. It's so weird how they do it there, and I guess we kind of do it here, but we never talk about it. The how our court might be made up politically, because it's just different, and so it's interesting how you worry about this, and of course the future of the country rests on their court so much, on as far as laws about things that they can reverse, like abortion. And you're like, oh my God. It's just so weird how so much of their country is controlled by the court. These few people in one space that are there till, as you say, till they're dead.
Yeah, I'd like to peek behind the curtain of what goes on behind the scenes there. I mean, with the whole Clarence Thomas, Ginny Thomas, direct line to Donald Trump, like there's so much to unpack there. But you know what? I'm going to just push that off.
Yes.
Because we got enough to hit on here. But let's stay international, because we should talk Ukraine as we do each week now. I mean, the horrors that we saw over the weekend. I mean, I want to look away, and then I force myself to turn back to it.
Yeah, and of course Russia saying it's propaganda. The machine is full on in Russia. And then you've got Zelensky, at the Grammys, making a speech there and trying to, get us to understand how bad it is. But it's also like you watch this stuff and they're taking back cities through their underground war. It's amazing, and I don't know what holds next, but what they're doing to these people, it's just. I mean, it's just, I never thought I would see this kind of stuff in what would be considered, Western countries, really.
I thought we'd learned from history. I thought as a global community that we'd learned from history, but clearly the want for power and the grab for power is what we're witnessing right before our very eyes here. And, the shifting, like you said, and watching the war games, watching the play of, we're going to destroy and try the tactic to bring everybody under control and replace the government, put a puppet government in there. And now they're just like, you know what, we're going to take Odessa. We're going to take, which could really impact the whole world. Like that's where, what'd you say, 90% of our wheat comes from, through the port at Odessa. And
sunflower.
Thinking about our role in helping those people fleeing there. I was speaking with Shane Woodford in Denmark when I was on radio in Toronto last night. And so interesting to listen to Shane, because, once those refugees, once those people fleeing the war, mostly women and children, and only men under or over the fighting age, because you're not allowed to leave if you're within that fighting age window, which is just, I can't even imagine that. Leaving your son or leaving your husband, but Shane was saying, once you cross the border, predominantly Poland, he said, is where the majority of people are coming through. But once then, you don't get checked at borders throughout the EU. So, I mean, there's nobody really knows how many people or where they're going or what, and there's so much goodwill right now, which is, I think, so important. And certainly here in Canada, with the largest Ukrainian population outside of Ukraine, it's important that we understand here as Canadians that Ukrainians really built our agricultural system. They really taught us how to do it here. So, I mean,
well, it's interesting for Shane
welcoming
to be
is
in
important.
Denmark too. With Scandinavia, half of Scandinavia is not in NATO, right? So you've got Finland and Sweden, and they're not part of NATO. They're looking at Russia, going, it just shows you
They're arming
politics.
up. They're arming
Politics
up. Yeah.
and leadership matters. You saw what happened, to Trump-style leadership in America, and we're still seeing the repercussions of what happened on January 6th this week. You see Trump coming out strong today, talking about that he wishes he'd actually marched on that day. And you've got Putin. I'm not saying, again, there are Trump supporters who watch and listen to the show. It's not a slam on Trump. It's just saying that leadership can really change things, and the progress or the changes of your country. And Putin, when 20 years ago, I don't think anybody would have seen the progress. He came in, democratically. I think it just shows you that leadership matters in politics. Things can change really quickly into craziness, and we should not certainly be in Canada feel like we're immune to the madness that could possibly happen, and we need to make sure we're careful about that. And we have, what we have. People in Canada are complaining a lot about our leadership currently in that strategic partnership today. That with the budget coming out with NDP and Liberals and this behind the backroom deal that they have, is that democracy? Is the fact that right now we're still living in this crisis. Now we have a war that we're helping with supplies and ammunition and all sorts of things. Yet I think a lot of Canadians are feeling, and I think the truckers' protest to a certain degree, it sort of reflected that frustration that we're losing control of our government, and that is definitely a tone that's out there and it exists. And so we have to be careful. You have to be on this stuff all the time.
I'm going to counterpoint you on a couple of things. Number one, to the Trump supporters who listen or watch this podcast, you're entitled to your opinion of that politician, as am I. And I think he is an absolute abomination to democracy. And he has done more to divide and destroy what was a fairly healthy democratic society prior to the Trump years. I'm astounded at the ignorance around that man that he gets a pass for. I have zero time for Donald Trump and him denouncing science and attacking Fauci. And, I believe that hundreds of thousands of Americans died needlessly during this pandemic because Donald Trump mishandled what the United States could have done. And as far as Canada goes, people that are complaining about our government, I'd much prefer the NDP and Liberal having a supply and confidence and supply agreement, over the divisiveness of I'm going to vote no against this incredibly learned and certainly worthy of the job. I don't know what the right word is really for Ketanji Brown Jackson finding her way to the Supreme Court when the last person who was ascended to the courts from the Republican side had literally never seen a case to verdict as a lawyer. Had never, honestly, Ketanji Brown Jackson has been a clerk for a Supreme Court justice for decades. It's just the way that works, and I'm pointing to the United States for those just listening, the way that works versus what we have here. Is it perfect? Hell no. Do I have complaints? Oh, yes. But I'd much prefer to see differing opinions in parties come together to try and move forward some of the things that have been punted down the field to the point where middle and impoverished Canadians are suffering.
Okay, two things. One is I think that don't underestimate the divisiveness of the Liberal NDP alliance that it's creating in this country. It's dangerous for sure. I think that just because the Conservatives are being divisive and using, I think we're in this moment in time in Canada as well, and I think it's politics in general where you're seeing this division. And I think Trudeau is using that. It's like this threat of the other side. certainly happens in Vancouver. That
we'll get
this
to that in a minute.
But vilifying your opposition is never good. It's ungentlemanly, as the old school term goes. As for Trump, just going back to that point, and I think there's a transition here, is one thing he did do was sign a free trade agreement, which opened up. We were concerned that that's a big deal for Canada to have a free trade agreement. And today, I think, as we wait for the budget to come out, because we're recording this before the budget comes out federally in Ottawa, the rumor is likely true, is there will be some kind of foreign investment in real estate rules, which I think is actually
temporary. They say that the rumor is that it'll be temporary, like 3 years or 2 years, where there's like an absolute suspension on foreign buying of Canadian properties.
And I've always said when I was in office that the foreign investment and the control of what gets sold in our country should be at the control of the federal government. How that works, though, I'll be interested to see, because I think you have to be careful that you don't simply create a sort of a black and white scenario where it's this or that, because foreign investment's pretty key to how we grow as a country. It's how this country was built. If you look at how Vancouver is built, most of this city was built and continues to be built through foreign investment. Sorry, everybody, it is. Any hotel that's built, any office building built, generally is built by pension funds or through partnerships with multinational
or outright international purchasers. I remember when Lee Ka-shing bought the Expo site. I remember that for a song.
Yeah, but
one building is worth what it's a. Yeah. But my point is a savvy business deal at the time, and when I hear rumor of, and I'm not for or against this as being part of our federal budget, I think something must be done. I feel like this is really late, but I'm no expert on this. My concern is it a blanket of nobody from anywhere but here can buy here, or is it cherry picking, which then puts all kinds of spin on this?
And prepare yourselves, Canada, because it's not going to solve the housing problem. It's not going to solve affordability, because guess what? We have in British Columbia 40,000 people moving to the Lower Mainland every year in, year out. We have a very, very open, as you touched on, immigration policies that are coming back big time now that COVID's kind of coming to an end. We hope.
We'll get to that in a second.
500,000 people moving to Canada. So you have this, and then we have this whole issue of cities not being able to build fast enough. The fact that there's no investment in a big level from federal and provincial governments for truly affordable housing. That we're not keeping up with, and we're getting to city elections because this whole supply and demand issue is.
Let's go into it right now. Let's go into it right now. Let's go forward.
People need to not think that this foreign investment thing.
Forward together. Let's go forward together, George.
Yes. Well, interesting. Yes. The mayor of Vancouver is new, you want to get
slogan.
City politics? You want to do provincial vaccine stuff? It's interesting. I think that, and you look at the provincial laws, the Forward Together is a very great campaign slogan. I wish,
it is. You did come up with it. That's crazy.
When I was helping out with Alice Ross's campaign early on, and that was our first slogan that I came up with. They changed it after I left the campaign because I got working at CKNW, and so I felt like it was a conflict to be helping out any candidate. So that Forward Together was our campaign slogan, and that's Kennedy-Stewart's campaign slogan on his website, forwardvancouver.ca. That's his name of his party. I assume he's registered it. Forward Vancouver is probably the name of the party. Good name. Good. It's, to me, that's why. That's why I came up with the tagline. I think I think we've talked about this many times. There's three kinds of elections. There's moving forward. There's change. There's so this is literally used, and Obama used forward, if you recall, in one of his campaigns.
And forward together.
And it's not uncommon. There's only so many taglines. Catchphrases, words used in politics. You just got to, or any themes that happen. And his argument will be, it's going to be like this. And as I touched on earlier, it's going to be a divisive campaign. What he will argue, as currently the only person center to center left in the campaign, is that you have a choice. You can move forward with me, the center or
the squishy
center left candidate. I'm your, for
I'm
anybody
here for
who's
you.
young, or you can
I'm going to
trust
take
these
care
right
of you.
wing,
Yeah.
these right wing crazy people, which is how their campaign will go. They'll find clips of John Cooper saying things. They'll find Colleen Hardwick stuff that she's lots of stuff that she said in
Mark
council.
Marison, Ken Sim. Yeah.
Former spouse of Christy Clark, not good. No offense, Christy. No offense, Mark. They're divorced now, but I know that the people in Vancouver do not like Christy Clark. They didn't even vote her in. She couldn't even win in Vancouver when she ran. So you have these candidates that are going to be vilified by him, and right now he's all on his own on the center right. Interesting. I saw Frances Bula, and I did agree with this with Colleen Hardwick, which is this NIMBY mentality that she is trying to capture about don't build in my backyard, no density for me, is not limited to one side of the political spectrum. You
No.
have left-wing people on Grandview Woodland who believe me, hate development and hate their single-family homes being taken away. Then you have people, of course, on the other side of the city who also hate it. So you have NPA people and you have COPE people who potentially, if Colleen Hardwick can do it right, capture and take away votes from Kennedy-Stewart, from those people who feel like he is being too aggressive on the construction and development in our city, which, you think, does anything being built in this last few years that wasn't approved when I was there? Pretty much no. Anything that you're seeing happening right now, like if you drive down First Avenue, you see a lot of development permits and a lot of single-family homes being torn down and being replaced by townhouses, row houses. That was approved when I was there, and that was 4 years ago. This council has done really not much at all for the city. So him using the forward together means keep going backwards together as moving forward.
But George, I mean, there's a plan now.
Oh,
there's
God.
a Vancouver plan now. I wrote about this in my column,
Yes.
And I got to say, you've
took
taught
the
me
words out of my mouth.
Well, you put them in my head because you and I have been talking about this for 165 episodes, and
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly that the time for this to be reiterated again, I feel like we're going back to the starting line. We're not forward together with this, with all due respect for the people who are working in City Hall and city planners who are trying to fill the information bucket that they have been requested to do. But to paint Vancouver, the city that born and raised in this city, to paint it with one brush is impossible. It's ludicrous. It's ridiculous. And if this plan had come out in 2019, how many times would it need to be rewritten after this pandemic? I mean, come on. Public consultation. I was digging through to find out where's the Jericho lands, where all I could find was a brochure statement of how there's a partnership and we're very mindful. I'm like, when are they breaking ground? Like, when's the completion date? And it was like, go to this link to another fancy schmancy web address. My head was like,
your column's great. People should read it for sure. I mean, this is, I've never supported this whole citywide plan.
No.
At least the version that they were pushing and peddling in the beginning, which was, as you had imagined yourself and referred to, it would include zoning and include some kind of specific plan. And I always argued that this is not possible to do in a citywide plan, at least within 4 years, and at a cost of $15 to $20 million.
$15 to $20 million, George.
Took away all the staff time. And guess what they have not done in 4 years? And we did when I was in there. So I was there for 7 years, and I think we did six community plans, 6 or 7 community plans. So these are small neighborhood plans, right?
Yes.
And neighborhood plans are, we have kind of a city plan because we were required to submit some kind of planning to Metro, to the region, regional planning. You have a density. This is how many people we're going to expect here. Here are some of our city centers, Oak Ridge, downtown, Broadway. We're expecting this many people moving here. So therefore you have to plan for that.
Right.
You could have done in 4 years at least two local plans, and 2 local plans that need to be done is Dunbar, and probably, certainly West 10th, that area, but also why not like up in Victoria, 49th, that area. You could put a significant amount of density with a lot of openness to that from people who probably would be fine with significant density up there.
And how about giving those people that are sitting on those properties the opportunity to create that density for their own betterment, the opportunity to actually get the permit, to do the thing, to hire the contractor, to come in and create that, to stratify their home, officially split it into 2 addresses, sell off half of it, share their space with other people. I actually have friends who did that in Kitsilano. They did it 15 years ago. They bought into a house together at great risk to both the couples, because there's, it was just an agreement. Okay, we're going to live beside each other. We're going to get along. They raised this crappy old house, completely redid it, put the divider down the middle and created the duplex. And it has been brilliant for them. And now there is no longer a single family home on this big piece of property. It has yard, it has parking, it has all the things. And you could put 2 big families in there. And that's what I think that is missing in this Vancouver plan. Like, we get so far down the line that it's like, it's either got to be a tower now or we're screwed. I mean, come on.
They could have spent $20 million on improving the processes for, getting rid of, I've sent this matrix out. I think that we came out when I was there, and it showed you all the redundant policies. I've tweeted this many times, this picture.
I've seen it.
It's the most impressive,
it's unbelievable
visual that you've ever seen, because it just shows you all the different processes and the redundancies. They could have spent $20 million on that. $20 million would have given you at least 3 community plans. They're about $5 million to do a community plan, the consultation, which would include a kind of pre-zoning. This is the zoning that we will allow here, so that you can go in. The neighborhood agrees with this. There's a community process where everybody's engaged and everybody goes, okay, we're good with that. It should get rid of the spot rezoning that you see across the city. It doesn't always, but generally, if you look at Marpole right now, if you drive down Oak Street in Marpole, that community plan, which was done in 2013, I think, it was controversial. It started out okay, then it got a bit ugly, and then it got good. But you see the significant density going in down there, and nobody's going, wow, this is an outrage, because guess what? The community agreed with it. And now you have all this
it's
density.
invigorating.
Not towers.
No,
so
I agree with you.
Processes that we have that they have ignored. Add on to that, Jody, the fact that this council's put in 200, extra motions into council meetings. So you've asked staff to do one of the most complex jobs in the history of our city, to put together this Vancouver plan, which was, they said, we don't want it like the previous city plan. We want it more detailed. We want specifics in here. And staff are like, well, that's really complicated. Okay, we'll try. But then meanwhile, here's 200 other motions of other stuff we want you to do that's all politically based and all about my ego and blah, blah, blah. And staff are like, okay, well, you give us 200 motions and you want us to build the most complex city plan in the history of our city. Something's got to give, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and now there's a war, and we have no money. So we'll just raise taxes. That's the solution. This is this mentality at City Hall, and there is no blame to go to staff on this. This is all politics. These are politicians who do not know how to manage our city, do not know how to govern our city, which is their job, not to literally go in there and the amount of changes to staff will bring these reports. For those who don't follow the council, and this happens at other councils, but not like it does in Vancouver, staff will bring us a very detailed report. These are people who are engineers and planners. They are trained in
professionals.
Their skills. They are professionals. They bring this report. Then this council in Vancouver will spend days changing the wording of what the recommendation of staff is. If you don't like the wording and you don't like what staff are presenting, you say, not good enough. Take it back.
Bring it back.
Come back to something better. You don't sit there and make like you're a planner, an engineer. My God, okay, let's start letting a city councilor build bridges. Okay, that's going to work out well, isn't it? It's ridiculous. Like, stop. Well,
Stop pretending that you're a planner, and looking through that Vancouver plan, like you said, the staff who are the professionals that are putting it together, you can almost see where they get sidetracked by the 43 communications people, cheers, who are like, what we need to do? We need to work in our concern for the people. We need like a purple box that says how concerned we are. I'm like, at some point, this smacks as ridiculous. I was clicking through page after page after page. I'm like, my tax dollars are paying for this. This is bullshit. Sorry.
It's step one, Jody. It's just the first iteration. The next council, of course, will layer on top of this and that's the problem. You get this, you have your 4-year window, unless you have a massive majority like Vision had, who thought, okay, we probably got at least 2 terms. They got 3. You have to, this council, we're going to have like, not a full change, but big change again, probably further to the left, as we've talked about in the past. I can't see, we'll see. It looks like those 3 NPAs may be heading over to Ken Simland, and we'll see how that goes. That could be what it takes for them to win.
Like everybody goes under Ken Sim for mayor. Is that what you mean? Just
to be a party for them to run as independents, they would have no hope. So they need to get on the party, wagon train, or what it's called. And so that might help Van win. He won't win, but it'll help them win.
Gotcha.
But it's not a guarantee, because of course the Green Party is going to probably run one more. I think that they've decided, and you've got,
and you're always going to get that. At some point somebody's going to run. Party. Somebody's going to run out and be like, bike lanes.
Yes.
That's going to happen. Okay, we're going to keep talking about this till October 15th, 2022, which is George's birthday as well as voting day. So everybody make plans to go
to meet cake.
Vote.
I will be.
Exactly. But you don't need to vote for everybody. You don't have to fill in the whole ballot. You can just fill in one box if you need to. Just make sure you get out and vote, because if you don't vote, you can't complain. You can always go complain on George's Twitter, though. He's at George _Affleck. I'm at Jody Vance, Jody with a Y, at Jody Vance. And before we wrap up today, we got a few more minutes here, and I do want to touch on COVID-19. It's a public service announcement for British Columbians. Number 1, your rapid antigen tests. As of Friday, you can go to any pharmacy without your care card now. Last week, I was telling you the process of how you go get your antigen test. Unlimited number. Without your care card, you just go into a pharmacy and say, give me one. And then the pharmacy on the next block and go, give me one. And they'll give you one. Give you one. So remember when we were talking about in Ontario, where they were literally handing them out at libraries and City Hall and whatever, you just go and grab them off a table? We've reached that point here in BC. And so come in handy.
I believe the strategy of Dr. Henry. I think that she always felt like if we start giving these out too early, I think this is her, and people may argue against this.
It's true.
But
you're right.
That gives them confidence that people don't think that this is a serious problem when it was 6 months ago. Now we're at a phase where you saw the data that she was showing is kind of blah, 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 blah. We're going to get it. Literally now, knock on wood, Amanda and I think, are the only ones in the office who haven't had COVID now. Even a
couple of my friends have had it twice. Twice in 2 months. Yeah. So for the people that think, I've had it, I'm bulletproof, you're not. But you're also, if you're fully immunized, you're very highly unlikely to have severe illness. But you should still isolate if you're sick. 5 days. If you have a positive test, stay away from people. Take care of yourself. If you start feeling really bad, definitely go seek medical attention. I also want to slip in about the 4th doses I've been doing Toronto radio, and there's out there, it's so politicized in Ontario, that 4th dose. They had a big press briefing about it, and everybody as of tomorrow can go if you're it's 60 and over, or First Nations, Métis, or Inuit, or living in the household of any of the Indigenous peoples I just mentioned, and are over the age of 18. So a large swath of people. And then I interviewed a scientist at the University of Toronto who said, you don't need the 4th dose unless you're, 10 months out from your 3rd dose and immunocompromised. So it doesn't really show, the science doesn't show that it's an exponentially greater protective layer for healthy individuals that are under the age of 60.
There's also no science saying it's bad for you. So in England,
it's not bad for you. So you could.
Anybody can get their 4th dose now. So they're about 3 months ahead of us. So,
exactly. So you can totally do it. Yeah.
I gotta just keep jamming it in me. Just
me too. Right here. But the people that are like, what are you going to get? 5, 6, 10? Yep. I've lost track of the number of flu shots
every year.
You and me, Georgie boy. You and me, Georgie. Oh my gosh, it's so true. No, but as of Friday, your Friday, tomorrow, or depends on when you're listening, no more vaccine passport to get into mandated vaccine passports to get into restaurants and
stuff. The whole,
but
here's my wallet. And
I know it's like, but I got it set up. It's like, and here's my ID with my vaccine, right? But some businesses will keep it. Some restaurants will be like, my clientele likes knowing that they're fully. You don't think so?
I don't believe it. No.
Oh, okay.
No. We've moved on. We're moving on. It's over. Let's get on with
it's over.
Ukraine now. We're all going to get it.
I'm not afraid of getting it. I'm afraid of our healthcare workers.
Charlie Smith and these people who are going after us saying we need to get this and that and the mask mandates. I think people are now self-policing themselves.
What's he saying?
Well, he sort of thinks that we're being too loosened up too quick, and a lot of people are saying that here in BC, and that the mask mandate should continue and this and that. I think they do continue. Everybody wants to wear a mask.
I'm wearing a mask still. I wear a mask still. I was at the Parthenon. I was at the Parthenon buying feta cheese an hour and a half ago, and I wore my mask. Everybody around me was masked up.
If it's tight space, I wear a mask. If it's like I'm the only person walking down the hallway at Home Depot, no, I'm not going to wear a mask. Dumb.
Same. I always look around and I think, how much ventilation is here? It's like the same group of people that are like, COVID is airborne. It's like, yes, we know it is.
Read that memo.
Come on, guys. They're like, why won't Dr. Henry say it out loud? She has. You're not listening, right? Aerosol, masks, distancing, spaces, and the people that are screaming for our schools to have new ventilation systems. Some of our schools don't have enough paper. So yeah, in a perfect world, we'd have perfect ventilation in all of our schools. Or exactly, right? So on that note, we'll keep fighting the good fight, George.
Yes. See you next week.
Bye.